In a small, serene town, where the gentle hum of daily life rarely wavered, the peaceful routine of the local police station was suddenly shattered one Thursday morning. The officers, accustomed to the monotony of their work, had been languidly sipping coffee and filling out paperwork in the stifling heat, their fans barely making a dent in the sweltering atmosphere. It was the kind of day where nothing seemed out of the ordinary until a jarring disturbance turned the calm on its head. Without warning, the doors to the police station were flung open with a force that echoed through the hallways. A small figure burst into the room, his short curly hair bouncing with every step. It was Samuel, a 7-year-old boy with a tear-streaked face and eyes wide with fear. His clothes were disheveled, and his tiny frame seemed even smaller against the backdrop of the bustling station. He moved swiftly, his footsteps creating a sharp, rhythmic sound as he crossed the cold ceramic floor. Have you ever witnessed a moment that left you speechless? A moment so profound it changed the way you see the world? This video takes you inside a heart-wrenching scene at a quiet police station where a little boy's desperate plea for help shakes everyone to their core. As we delve into the raw emotions and unfolding drama, you'll understand why this powerful story is not just compelling but crucial to grasping the deeper issues it reveals. Stay with us until the end to uncover the full impact of this extraordinary and moving event, because understanding this moment might just change your perspective on courage and vulnerability. The boy, visibly shaken, made a beeline for the reception area. His small hands gripped the counter tightly as he strained to lift himself, his voice quivering with an urgency that cut through the usual noise of the station. Please arrest my dad," he pleaded, his words trembling with raw desperation that echoed off the walls. The officers, initially stunned by the scene before them, exchanged bewildered glances as they set aside their coffee cups and abandoned their paperwork. The sudden intrusion and Samuel's heart-wrenching plea caused a ripple of confusion and concern among the officers. They paused, their routine interrupted by the gravity of the situation unfolding before them. The boy's eyes, glistening with unshed tears, bore into them as he implored again, "You need to arrest him. He has to go to jail immediately." The sense of urgency in his voice and the palpable anguish in his expression began to stir a collective unease among the staff, drawing them into the unfolding drama and leaving them grappling with the gravity of the boy's distressing request. Officer Claudia, a young policewoman with a warm and gentle demeanor, swiftly moved towards Samuel, her heart responding to the urgent plea that had reached her office. Her approach was marked by an instinctive tenderness as she extended her hand towards Samuel and gently guided him to a nearby bench. "It's okay, sweetheart. Come, sit down here," she said softly, lowering herself to Samuel's level so that she could look directly into his tear-filled eyes. Her words were imbued with a nurturing quality, as if she were a mother reassuring her child. "Everything is all right now. You're safe here with us," she continued, her voice soothing as she gently stroked Samuel's hair to calm his trembling frame and quell his fear. Despite her efforts, Samuel's heart raced uncontrollably, each beat a stark reminder of his distress. His shoulders shook involuntarily, and tears continued to flow freely down his cheeks. The overwhelming sense of vulnerability and dread seemed to shroud him entirely, making his fear all the more palpable. At the same time, another officer, determined to maintain a reassuring presence, approached with a demeanor of calm and understanding. Leaning closer to Samuel, he spoke in a voice that carried an undercurrent of comfort. "What happened, sweetheart? There's no need to be afraid. You're safe here with us. Can you tell us what happened?" Though his voice was gentle and caring, it struggled to penetrate the emotional barrier surrounding the frightened boy. Samuel clung desperately to Claudia's shirt, his eyes wide and brimming with tears, while the atmosphere in the station's hall was thick with a sense of confusion and concern. Around them, the other officers exchanged uneasy glances, their faces reflecting a mixture of curiosity and alarm. Murmurs of speculation circulated quietly, their unspoken question lingering in the air: what did this boy's father do? Yet, amidst this backdrop of concern, the most poignant aspect was the heavy emotional burden Samuel carried, a weight far too great for a child of his age to bear. Claudia, unwavering in her compassion and resolve, remained seated beside Samuel, her presence a beacon of comfort. She leaned in once more, her voice soft and reassuring, as she gently dabbed at his tears. "It's all right, sweetheart," she murmured, trying to break through the silence that encased him. Her calm and steady voice aimed to offer a silent promise of safety and understanding as she hoped to soothe the storm of emotions that had overtaken the young boy. The station chief, Mr. Johnson, was a man of considerable presence. With his silver hair meticulously combed back, he had an authoritative air about him. As he rose from behind his desk, his movements exuded a commanding grace that immediately drew the attention of everyone in the room. His deliberate steps resonated with a sense of responsibility and anticipation as he made his way toward the small, trembling figure of Samuel. The chief's imposing stature, combined with his carefully measured demeanor, filled the space with an aura of respect and curiosity as he endeavored to uncover the mystery surrounding the boy's distress. "Hello, little one, Mr. Johnson said, his deep voice surprisingly warm and gentle. The contrast between his authoritative presence and the tenderness in his voice was meant to reassure the young boy. "What are you doing here alone? Why did you come here, huh?" Samuel's breath came in rapid, shallow gasps, a physical manifestation of his deep emotional turmoil. Even though he was surrounded by a circle of adults, there was an unmistakable vulnerability in his eyes. His fear seemed to permeate the room, a stark reminder that despite the physical security provided by the police station, his emotional state was far from settled. Each of his sobs was a poignant display of a young heart grappling with an overwhelming sense of distress, cloaked in a veil of insecurity that the walls of the police station could not erase. Despite the chief's gentle inquiry, Samuel remained silent, his head hung low. The silence was thick with unspoken anguish. As the minutes ticked by, a growing number of officers, driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, began to gather around Samuel. They formed a semicircle, their expressions reflecting a blend of empathy and concern, though their presence seemed to only amplify the boy's sense of intimidation. Seeing the effect of the crowd on Samuel, Chief Johnson decided that a different approach was needed. The boy's growing anxiety was palpable, and the chief realized that the current environment, crowded and intense, might be exacerbating his distress. With a clear understanding of the need for a more suitable setting, the chief made a quick decision. It was essential to move Samuel to a space where he could speak more freely and feel less overwhelmed. "Come on, sweetie," Chief Johnson said softly, leaning in with a reassuring tone. "Can you tell us what happened at your house? We want to help you, but we need to understand." Samuel made an effort to respond, but his words were fragmented and difficult to decipher, emerging in a broken, confused manner. "Arrest him. He can't stay at home with me. I want him to go to jail, please," he pleaded, his voice carrying a mix of desperation and urgency. His plea was delivered with such intensity that it underscored the gravity of the situation, making the weight of his fear and confusion almost tangible to those present. Recognizing that the growing crowd of concerned officers might be adding to the boy's distress, the police, guided by Chief Johnson's decision, swiftly took action. They determined that it was crucial to provide Samuel with a more private and secure environment where he could express himself without further intimidation. With a deliberate focus on protecting his emotional well-being, they decided to relocate him to the interrogation room. This decision was driven by a dual purpose: to safeguard Samuel's emotional integrity and to ensure that his fragile voice would be heard with the seriousness and attention it warranted. The policewoman, understanding the need for sensitivity, approached Samuel with a gentle demeanor. "Come, dear," she said softly, offering a comforting hand. "Let's go to a quieter place to talk, okay?" Her words were intended to provide solace and to guide Samuel away from the overwhelming scene, ensuring that he felt safe and supported as he began to share the troubling circumstances that had led him to the police station. Settling into the chair in the quiet, softly lit room designated for more private conversations, the little boy, Samuel, seemed to find a rare moment of comfort, a fleeting sense of relief that allowed him to relax just a little. Noticing this subtle shift in his demeanor, the policewoman seized the opportunity to gently probe deeper into the situation. "Samuel, can you tell me what happened? Did your dad hurt you? Did he do something that caused you pain?" Claudia inquired with a careful blend of sensitivity and determination, hoping to extract some concrete detail that could steer her next steps. As Samuel tried to muster a response, his face contorted with visible frustration, a poignant sign of his struggle to articulate such complex and painful emotions. His attempt to explain was interrupted, his words trailing off as if swallowed by an impenetrable fog of confusion and uncertainty. "Dad gets mad sometimes," he began, but the remainder of his thought seemed to evaporate, leaving a dense cloud of ambiguity hanging in the air. The policewoman, maintaining a tone imbued with both concern and gentleness, pressed on with her questioning. "Can you tell me more about how he gets mad, dear?" she asked, her voice a soothing balm in the expectant silence that enveloped the room. The officers present, their minds racing with concern, started to piece together the troubling puzzle, envisioning scenarios that none of them wanted to confront. They grappled with the possibility of domestic violence or abuse, wondering what could be so dire that a child would seek refuge at the police station and plead for his father's arrest. Sensing the gravity of the situation and the deep sadness reflected in Samuel's eyes when he mentioned his father, the chief knelt to Samuel's level, his expression softening with compassion. "We want to help you, Samuel," he said gently, "but for us to do that, I need you to try and tell us a bit more about what's going on, okay?" Samuel, struggling to hold back his tears, nodded in response. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes about his trust in those who were ready to assist him. "All right, I'll ask you some questions, and you can answer with yes or no, okay?" The chief suggested, aiming to make it easier for Samuel to communicate his experience without feeling overwhelmed. The chief, seeking clarity, asked softly, "Is your dad at home right now?" "Yes," Samuel murmured, his brief reply betraying his distress. "And how did you manage to leave the house?" The chief continued, encouraging Samuel to share more about his escape. As he wiped away the tears still streaming down his face, Samuel revealed, "Dad was sleeping. I unlocked the door and ran." The chief and the policewoman focused intently on deciphering the boy's fragmented story and sought more details that could shed light on the case. With a voice full of maternal concern, the policewoman asked, "Samuel, is your dad very aggressive? Does he hit you?" Samuel's hesitation was palpable, as if he were carefully weighing each word before speaking. "I've been hit a few times," he admitted, his breath coming in quick, shallow bursts as he relayed this painful truth. Samuel's response intensified the officers' concern, exacerbating the already tense atmosphere. They asked for the address of his house. Despite not knowing precise details, the directions Samuel provided were enough to locate where he and his father lived, a nearby area with a polluted creek, making it easy to identify the residents. When the chief asked about Samuel's mother, the atmosphere became even heavier. "Dad said she went for a walk, but she never came back." Samuel's simple recounting of his mother's disappearance petrified everyone present. The gravity of the situation became increasingly evident with the realization that they were dealing with a case of family violence compounded by the strange circumstance of a man raising his son without the mother and claiming she had gone for a walk. The police station quickly transformed into a hub of frenetic activity, with officers darting back and forth, coordinating efforts and outlining action plans with urgency. A team was promptly organized to head to Samuel's residence, mentally preparing to face the worst possibilities. The chief, recognizing the seriousness of the situation, grabbed the radio with determination and established contact with the patrol car already en route to the provided address. His firm and clear voice conveyed the urgency of the moment. "Attention unit, we have a possible 1032 code for domestic violence. The suspect must find no opportunity to escape. Proceed with all necessary caution." This instruction was not just standard procedure, it reflected the seriousness with which the station handled cases of abuse, emphasizing the importance of acting prudently to ensure the safety of all involved, especially Samuel. With his voice still trembling, Samuel continued to share his story, his words laden with fear. "Every night he gets angry. He says he can't take it anymore." The officers exchanged worried glances, each trying to grasp the depth of what Samuel was attempting to convey with his anguished words. Given the gravity of the insinuations, the chief intervened, seeking clarity. "What does your dad say he can't take anymore, Samuel?" Samuel's distressing plea heightened the officers' alarm, adding a layer of tension to the already charged atmosphere. They quickly inquired about the address of his home. Although Samuel could not provide precise details, the general direction he gave was sufficient to pinpoint the location of their residence. It was situated near a polluted creek, a landmark that made the area easily identifiable. When the chief inquired about Samuel's mother, the weight of the situation grew heavier. Samuel's response was chilling in its simplicity. "Dad said she went for a walk, but she never came back." The starkness of his statement sent a shiver through the room. It became increasingly clear that they were dealing with a potentially grave situation involving domestic violence and the mysterious disappearance of Samuel's mother, who had vanished under troubling circumstances. The police station, once a bastion of routine calm, quickly morphed into a whirlwind of activity. Officers hurriedly coordinated efforts, formulating plans of action with an urgency born from the gravity of the situation. A team was immediately assembled to visit Samuel's home, mentally bracing themselves for the possibility of confronting a dangerous scenario. The chief, recognizing the critical nature of the situation, grabbed the radio with a sense of urgency and contacted the patrol car already en route to the address provided. His voice was firm and resolute as he conveyed the severity of the moment. "Attention unit, we have a potential 1032 code for domestic violence. The suspect mustn't have the opportunity to flee. Proceed with utmost caution." This directive was more than just procedural. It underscored the station's commitment to handling cases of abuse with the seriousness they deserved, particularly when the safety of a child like Samuel was at stake. Meanwhile, Samuel, his voice still trembling, continued to recount his experiences, his fear palpable. "Every night he gets angry. He says he can't take it anymore." The officers exchanged anxious glances, struggling to fully grasp the depth of Samuel's distress. The gravity of his statements prompted the chief to seek further clarification. "What does your dad say he can't take anymore, Samuel?" The question hung in the air, a desperate attempt to understand the full extent of the turmoil Samuel was describing and to prepare for whatever lay ahead. The chief's words struck a raw nerve in Samuel, and his eyes welled up with tears once more. In a voice quivering with vulnerability, he confessed, "He hit the fridge door. I got scared." The room fell silent as the weight of Samuel's revelation sank in. It was a moment of collective realization for everyone present. The truth of Samuel's situation was laid bare. The violence that had been inflicted upon him was no longer something that could be ignored or minimized. The urgency to act became evident. It was imperative to intervene to ensure Samuel's safety and hold the perpetrator accountable. As preparations were made at the police station for the arrival of the suspect, a different scene was unfolding at Samuel's home. Michael, deep in a restless sleep, was jolted awake by the blaring sirens of police cars converging on his property. The scene that greeted the officers was one of neglect: a wooden house with peeling paint, cobwebs festooning the neglected corners, and overgrown weeds encircling the property, giving the place a foreboding appearance. Without delay, the officers breached the front door with determined authority, their arrival announced by commanding shouts for Michael to surrender. Caught off guard, Michael had little time to comprehend the situation before he was handcuffed and led outside. His protests, filled with confusion and desperation, echoed through the quiet night. "What's happening? Why am I being arrested?" One of the officers, maintaining a no-nonsense demeanor, read Michael his rights as they escorted him toward the patrol car. The mention of the police station triggered an immediate and visceral reaction from Michael. His face paled and panic overtook him. "Police station? No, I didn't do anything. Let me go. I have a child at home. Please let me go." The officer's response was blunt and unforgiving. "Your son Samuel is at the station. It's over for you. Get in the car." As Michael was roughly shoved into the back of the patrol vehicle, a creeping wave of fear began to cut through the fog of his confusion. "My son? What's he doing there? Tell me," he demanded, his voice escalating in panic. The officer's stern command for him to remain silent only exacerbated his mounting anxiety as the vehicle roared to life and sped towards the police station. Each beat of his heart pounded like a frantic drum, amplifying his sense of dread as he struggled to grasp the grim reality that his son's safety seemed to be intricately linked to his uncertain fate. Amidst this turbulent sea of confusion, a thin, trembling voice broke through the oppressive silence. "I was the one who asked them to arrest you, Daddy," Samuel said softly, his eyes wide with a desperate hope that was directed squarely at Michael. "But why? What did I do, son?" Michael asked, his voice shaky and irregular with fear and confusion. His face was a mask of bewilderment as he darted glances between Samuel and the officers, desperately trying to piece together this baffling situation. As the patrol vehicle continued its journey, the atmosphere inside the police station grew heavy with tension. The usually bustling precinct seemed to fall into a profound silence, accentuating Michael's struggle to comprehend why he was being restrained and what had prompted this drastic action. His gaze remained fixed on Samuel, his eyes brimming with an intense mixture of worry and sadness. "My son, why would you have me arrested? What could justify this?" Samuel, his voice caught in a tight knot of emotion, lifted his face to meet his father's troubled eyes. With an overwhelming sadness that threatened to burst into tears, he whispered almost inaudibly, I just wanted you to be able to eat, Daddy." This simple yet profound confession echoed through the room like a startling revelation, leaving everyone momentarily stunned into silence. Samuel's voice wavered as he continued, trembling with the weight of his emotions. "I saw it on TV, Daddy. They said that people in prison get food 3 times a day." His words cast an entirely new perspective on the situation, revealing the depth of a child's concern and the heart-wrenching innocence behind his actions. Tears streamed down Samuel's cheeks, each drop reflecting the raw, unfiltered love he held for his father. He took a shaky breath and recalled a painful memory. "I remember that night," Samuel began, his voice choked with emotion. "I heard you crying. You were in the kitchen, and the fridge was open. You looked so sad, Daddy, asking why there was no food. You hit the fridge and yelled." A profound silence enveloped the room, a tangible weight settling over everyone as they absorbed the full impact of the boy's confession. The harsh reality of Samuel's domestic life, marked by a lack of food and the pervasive shadow of despair, had been laid bare. The gravity of the situation was palpable, and Michael, standing under the astonished gazes of those around him, felt an overwhelming need to explain. His voice, heavy with the burden of truth, began to unravel the complex and heartbreaking story that had confounded everyone. Each word he spoke seemed to peel away layers of doubt, revealing a life marred by extreme poverty and relentless struggle. Michael's narrative was delivered through a series of choked sobs and forced pauses, his words punctuated by the pain of his reality, a story not only of personal hardship, but also of a father's profound love and sacrifice. Michael's tale was both touching and harrowing. It became clear that his life had been a constant battle against hunger, with every morsel of food meticulously rationed and given to Samuel. His growing malnutrition was a testament to his devotion, as he made the excruciating choice to prioritize feeding his son over his well-being. The revelation of Michael's struggle was both a heartbreaking and poignant portrait of a father's love, driven to the edge by the demands of survival and the relentless pursuit of providing for his child. Michael's plight had been further compounded by his status as a single father following his wife's death. To shield Samuel from the harsh truth of her permanent absence, he had fabricated a story that she was simply out for a walk. This lie, meant to protect his son's fragile hope, inadvertently fueled Samuel's misplaced optimism. Michael had intended to preserve a semblance of normalcy, never foreseeing that the lie would deepen Samuel's anxiety. The family's financial situation was dire, exacerbated by Michael's lack of professional qualifications and prolonged unemployment. His every effort was dedicated to acquiring just enough food for one person, usually Samuel. The result was his deteriorating health, a reality Samuel was acutely aware of, adding to the boy's already intense fear and concern. The breaking point for Michael came in the quiet of the night when Samuel was asleep and the house was shrouded in darkness. Confronted with an empty refrigerator and overwhelmed by the relentless hunger, Michael's frustration erupted violently. His anger was directed at the refrigerator door, his shouts echoing through the house, a raw expression of the injustice and helplessness he felt. Samuel, roused by the commotion, had witnessed his father's outburst, the sight of Michael's despair searing into his young mind and deepening his fear. The image of his father's suffering was a painful reminder of their grim reality, further compounded by the knowledge of his father's inability to provide even the basics. One morning, when the meager supplies at home had dwindled to nothing, Samuel turned on the TV with the hope of watching his favorite cartoon. Instead, he accidentally came across a local news segment discussing the conditions in prison. The only detail he managed to understand from the report was that prisoners received 3 meals a day. In his young, innocent mind, this piece of information struck him as a possible solution to his father's ongoing struggle with hunger. Motivated by this newfound but misguided solution, Samuel dashed to the police station, driven by a naive conviction that having his father arrested would ensure regular meals for him. The scene that unfolded was both poignant and heartrending. Michael, overwhelmed with emotion and with tears streaming down his face, pulled his son into a comforting and protective embrace. "Forgive me, son. I'm so sorry for this," he whispered, his voice breaking with sorrow. The officers present, many of whom were parents themselves, felt a profound sense of empathy. The situation before them became a stark reflection of the harsh realities faced by countless families, especially during times of economic hardship. What had initially appeared as a potential case of domestic violence now unfolded into a stark portrayal of the struggles faced by those on society's fringes. The investigation evolved into a powerful reminder of human vulnerability and the relentless battle against poverty. After Michael and Samuel were released, they returned home with hearts brimming with renewed love for each other. However, the following morning brought an unexpected and heartwarming surprise. They were awakened by a series of firm knocks on the door. When they opened it, they were greeted by an astonishing sight. Several community members, accompanied by the very police officers from the station, stood outside with baskets brimming with food, new clothes, and toys. The joy in Michael's and Samuel's eyes was palpable as Samuel eagerly ran to explore the toys. Michael, overwhelmed with emotion and gratitude, struggled to contain his tears. Before Michael could fully process the unexpected kindness, the chief approached with a surprising proposal. "We're looking for a janitor for the station." Would you be interested? More tears welled up in Michael's eyes as he absorbed the depth of the generosity extended to him. Accustomed to facing adversity alone, this outpouring of solidarity was a dream come true. I don't even know what to say. Yes, of course I accept. Thank you so much. May God repay you all double, Michael managed to say through his tears. Samuel, captivated by the array of toys, rushed to the door with glee, exclaiming, "Look, Daddy, so many toys." "Yes, dear, they're all for you," Michael replied, his tears mixing with a smile as he shared in the unadulterated happiness radiating from his son. That day became a significant milestone of joy and hope, a vivid reminder of the incredible power of community and human compassion. In the next week, the police station and institution Michael had previously never envisioned as part of his own life transitioned into a sanctuary and a pivotal point for a fresh beginning. What once seemed like an alien environment now became a place of refuge and a launchpad for his new journey. As the days went by, the poignant story of Samuel, a young boy who had taken the drastic step of having his father arrested to secure a meal, resonated deeply within the town. This heartfelt narrative quickly became a powerful symbol, stirring the community to unite in support of those less fortunate. Motivated by Samuel's act of selfless love, which highlighted the desperation of those struggling to meet their basic needs, local volunteer organizations began to spring into action. They started coordinating donation fairs, establishing social assistance programs, and rallying community resources to ensure that no family would have to endure hunger or be deprived of necessities. Samuel's simple, yet profound gesture of love for his father inadvertently sparked a wave of compassion and solidarity throughout the community, leading to widespread efforts to provide aid and support to numerous families in need. Thank you for watching our story. We've witnessed a powerful tale of love, sacrifice, and the profound impact of community support. This touching narrative not only highlighted the struggles faced by one family, but also underscored the importance of empathy and collective action in times of hardship. What have you learned from this story? Reflect on the challenges faced by Michael and Samuel, and consider how their experiences can inspire and impact your own life. We'd love to hear from you. Comment below with one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that matter. See you next time.